Hello and welcome to my update review of the Palmetto State Armory AK-74. Last time I did a video on this, I had about 420 rounds through it. Currently, I'm about 1,000, plus or minus around 30 or so around 1,030 or more. Given all that I've put this gun through, it really wasn't a whole lot in terms of what I think this gun is capable of shooting. Um, there's been a lot of talk recently based on what we've been seeing from Grand Thumb, Mishiko, and some other big YouTubers that this gun may not be ready to, really take its spot as the main American-made AK-74 on the market. Um, if we look at, for example, Grand Thumb, he has about 1,500 rounds, and his view and that of Fuller, Jim Fuller, and some others is that it seems to have a abnormal wear pattern that is not suited for a mass-produced, common AK. It doesn't seem like it's ready to be in the spotlight yet, based on that. Um, I think it's somewhat funny to see that wear pattern on his gun because um, some of it does seem, actually worrisome, but I think a little bit of it, at least one of the pictures that he put up on Instagram, doesn't seem too bad. Uh, Granted, you would have to understand that it does seem that the right lug on the AK-74s and AKMs and AK-103s that Palmetto State Armory is making are profiled slightly different. They have a slight angle or step, I guess you call it, to them. Um, and it seems like, for example, Robski has tested these guns with that in mind. And actually, um, if you watch any of those videos where he gets to the part of the right lug, he almost always mentions it and just states that's how they have been making them, and doesn't seem that it's causing any issues. Robski, I want to say, has 5,000 rounds on his PSA AK-74, and it doesn't seem that it's really in any bad shape. Um, so, 1,000 versus 1,500 versus 5,000, we are seeing some very interesting deviation in how the guns are looking and performing. With that being said, though, um, Grantham also had another issue with the firing pin, and it also seemed as though Mishiko had a similar issue with his firing pin where they've broken. And then also, I believe, Military Arms Channel, despite all the controversy and what you might think of him, he has a video of him shooting and addressing some of the issues with Grantham and Mishiko, and his almost breaks the firing pin. And again, it seems that uh, based on just a sample size of these people, that there is some variation. For example, Robski has not mentioned any issues with his firing pin whatsoever, and I haven't had any issues with mine. Yeah, if we look at Mishiko and Grantham, we see that theirs are breaking rather easily and quickly. And Mac almost had his break. It does seem like there might be some issues with the tolerances of certain parts and how they're made. It might be the fact that they've really ramped up the production from what I've been able to tell in terms of serial numbers. And that might be causing issues with quality control, which, anything that can really, hurt quality control when you're, especially ramping up any production of anything. And I don't know how many they've made of these, but for example, I know Rob Ski's rifle is in the 1700s. And also it is important to note that the way Palmetto State Armory does these rifles in terms of serial numbers is they have, in fact, segregated them based on if they're a side folder or if they're not. So if you have a side folder, your serial number is in its own category versus the standard fixed stock. So, I mean, if you look at mine, 208, mine's a pretty early side folder. So it's hard to tell exactly how many they've made. They've made, at least 1,700 or more of the regular versions, and I've seen some high numbers. So let's say they've made, I guess, 3,000 of these things total, both versions. Now, let's say, they're still making all the different other variants, the 103s. They could have made 10,000 rifles last year alone. Who knows? I don't know. Granted, this year we don't know how many they've made so far, but that is something to look out for, because it means that not only is demand up, but when demand is up, quality goes down, which is a potentially dangerous situation, especially with guns being involved. But what I will say, though, is I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the issues that I've seen with Grand Thumb's gun, with Michiko's, and and some other people in general, and talk about what I've experienced with my gun. I have had one small issue with this gun. It's literally not even like a real big deal, and in fact, you can find foreign made SKSs, foreign made AKs with the exact same issue that is actually much worse. And it's a very easy fix, and you really don't even have to fix it to really continue using the gun. So I'll go ahead and mention that right now. One guy on my video commented and asked if I've had any issues with the rear sight being unable to be used. I think he said that the way the base was machined, that it didn't basically allow for him to line up with the front post or something. I don't remember exactly. My sights work fine, but what I have noticed, and I don't think I can show you this, is that it seems that this back leaf sight is somewhat angled. Like the pin that's holding it might be somewhat tilting it to the left, I think, because when you look down it, you can see that this trench going down at the part where you line up with your front post, the trench going down, it seems to kind of not be fully lining up with it, and you can kind of see the end of it in relation to the front post. So basically what I think is happening is this rear sight is kind of being canted in its spot, and you can fix that. There's a video of a guy taking the pin out, and I think he like removes some material from one side or something, and it fixes it. Basically, just the way that it's in there is kind of messing with it and causing it to kind of tilt. So it's not a huge deal, honestly. You can still use the sights. And again, my front sight's kind of canted anyway. You can see that I still have this thing a little bit far out. But important to note, I literally have had canted sights on the Arsenal that I have, the 107R, and the Wasser that I have has somewhat canted sights. And so I can't really say that, oh, it's, bad American, poor quality. Well, no. I mean, I have two other guns that are foreign made that are highly regarded amongst many AK owners, and no issues that I can say that are unique to this rifle in terms of that. Michiko had a few issues with his stock being somewhat loose. Mine's not loose at all, I would say. In fact, it's very sturdy. And then he also had issues with his dust cover being a little bit loose. And mine is very tight. His had a little bit of side to side and front to back. And I'm trying to move the thing without moving the whole gun. And, it's tight. It's very tight. In fact, this is tighter than my Arsenal. So again, it comes down to, I guess, how Palmetto State Armory is allowing for their guns to be made, basically, because they aren't making these parts in house. Most people don't realize this. They're not making these forged parts I don't even know if they make a single part in house. I have no idea, but I know for a fact, like the important parts, like the forgings and stuff like that, are made by a third party. And again, it makes sense. This is a lot of money to invest into making a gun. The reason why the foreign Eastern European countries can do this so easily is because this machinery is bought and paid for probably during the Soviet times, probably gifted to them. It just depends. But again, to set up production like this is not easy. It costs a lot of money, and to get it right is even more harder. Again, if you watch Misha Ko's videos, Misha clearly states that the Soviets took like a couple years, I think like a decade, before they really perfected the design and manufacturing process of the gun when it actually got into mass production. So, that's always an important thing to really think about when you're looking at guns like this. So I'll go ahead and just do a quick showcase of the parts, because again, there's not really much I can say about this gun. I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short, because tends to be that my videos are a little bit long because I like to ramble. So I'll go ahead and get into the parts, and then I'll actually also talk just briefly about this optic. I mentioned I was getting one of these and I wanted to use it and do a little review on it. I'll just include it in here. There's not much I can really say at this point because I haven't really got to do a whole lot with it. So I'll go ahead and field strip the gun, show you the insides, and go from there. All right, so starting off with the trunnion and just the overall receiver components. I want to go ahead and talk about the right lug, because that seems to be the main issue that people are having with the potential longevity of these rifles. And I want to address quickly what I said at the beginning of the video, where I talked about the issues that Grantham had with his, and in relation to Jim Fuller. Obviously, I have really no expertise with these guns. All I'm really doing is kind of going off of what Robski does on his videos with AK Operators Union. I just kind of show some of the things that he does, and I know a little bit enough to be able to talk about it and have some say, but really I'm no expert. I'm not trying to discredit anyone, trying to contradict anyone, really. What I'm just trying to show you is what I've seen, what I've heard from people who know more than I do, and just trying to make some sense of it, because a lot of people that are buying these guns or looking at these reviews, I don't expect you guys to be some expert that, knows everything about these guns, and really neither am I. So I think it's important to kind of try to look at these guns with the understanding that, each individual experience is simply that. And, if you watch what Grantham experienced with his rifle, you might automatically have a very negative view of this weapon and just not want to get anywhere near it. However, if you watched his 103 review, you might think that gun is significantly better and worthy of buying. However, I've heard people that have had the exact opposite experience with the 103 in particular, that it's basically broken after 1,000 rounds and had to be replaced. So it really comes down to who you're really watching in terms of are you getting the full experience of what this gun has to offer? Are you watching multiple people's viewpoints and seeing how theirs perform? Because, if you only get really one side of a story, you might really have a very limited view in terms of what's actually happening with these guns. And I'm just trying to show you what I've had, because I've been very pleased with this gun so far. And, compared to what other people are having, it's been very interesting to see the very varying ways in which these guns can either have issues or not have issues, it seems. So I'll go ahead and show you this right lug. I'm zooming in to show you. It does seem that this profile of it, this general profile, is just normal. Robski has very clearly shown that all of the Palmetto State Armories tend to have this very distinct and very different shape of the right lug, and that it doesn't seem to cause any issues. His looks very much so identical to mine. As you can see, there's no material rising backwards or being pushed backwards. There might be a slight, yeah, there's like a slight, I guess, material hanging over the edge. However, Robski's looks literally identical. In fact, even his 103 had that happening. So again, if you want to try to say that this is extremely dangerous, then just look at how many rounds Robski has hit through his. You can say, yeah, well, 5,000 rounds, not a whole lot of rounds. What if it breaks in 10,000? Well, I have no idea. It could. It very well may. If it does, I'll let you guys know and try to get it fixed. So we'll see what happens in terms of what this profile of the right lug does and what becomes of it, because so far it seems it's just a different way of doing it and it doesn't really cause a whole lot of issues. Again, going back to what Grantham showed us on his video, in his Instagram post, he shows us two pictures of two different Palmetto State Armories and their right lugs. One of them is his. I don't remember which one, but one looks very similar to this, and I wasn't sure if he was trying to state that that was one that was having issues, because apparently, from what I've seen from Robski, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. However, another one he showed definitely had material being pushed back and forward, and that could potentially be an issue. Mac also has a very good video showcasing how even his Russian-made one has some wear right there, and it doesn't seem like it's causing any real issues. I think the real test will be to see if this progresses, if this gets worse, because as far as I've seen, this is just stayed exactly the same. No real difference or change in it, so we'll see. Looking at the other lugs, again, this gun is somewhat dirty. I've cleaned, like that lug, for example, I cleaned it a little bit to get a better view, but no real issues. You can see carbon buildup and other stuff, but no real issues. The ejector looks good. No real issues. There's a little bit of carbon buildup. Hammer still is doing strong. It hangs up in the back. The bolt does on the hammer. You can clearly see that there's a very distinct profile to it. They don't smooth out the face of it to make it ride better, but it is what it is. Other than that, it's all looking good. The safety selector is doing fine. No issues. Very nice. Rivets real quick. Try to get you a good view of some of the rivets real quick. They're all looking good to me. Again, I have a Wasser that's very old, a 1974 kit build, and that thing, it's basically one of those kit builds that the Cougar factory basically made right after the whole barrel import ban was in effect by Bush. But that thing definitely shows that even foreign-made AKs can have a little bit of variation, how nice certain things look, like rivets, or how well made front iron sights are in terms of candid and stuff like that. So again, it really just comes down to what you're willing to accept, I think. So moving this thing out of the way, I'll go ahead and show you the bolt components. So I'm going to go ahead and just say again that this dust cover is very tight on the gun. In fact, when I'm taking it off, the front lip seems to be very well fit on the gun. And again, I've seen variation in that on my other foreign-made AKs as well. Going to the second most controversial and important part on the Palmetto State Armory is the bolt. So, main issue that people seem to be having is firing pin seems to be very easily broken. And again, I've had no issues. You can hear it. It seems to be doing well. If you look at the head of the firing pin, it doesn't seem to have any issues happening to it. You can look at the face of everything, of the entire bolt face right here as well. Seems to be very well. Obviously very dirty. Just looking over real quick, you can see some wear. You know, there's obviously going to be some wear. Looking at the lug that is in correlation with our right lug, looks very well. I did wipe this down just a tiny bit. You can see, you know, some obvious finish wear, but nothing is rolling over. I believe Grand Thumb did state that on his, he also had some issues with that area on the bolt as well. So again, I didn't really get a good understanding of what his rifle was having happened to it, but my gun definitely does not seem to be having that issue. Now, another really strange thing is, again, these weird markings on the back of the bolt. Mishiko states that he thinks what it is they simply have made the length of this a little bit too long, and that's what's causing it. I have no idea. We'll see if it causes issues, but so far, nothing is really happening with it. I'm trying to show you. I don't think it will let me. There we go. The back end of the firing pin, trying to see if it's, you know, mushrooming or rolling over. It might be a little bit. I can't really tell exactly. There might be a little bit, tiny bit of metal being pushed from firing. We'll see. This is around the time when it seems like a lot of people are starting to experience issues with their firing pin. So far, I've had no issues whatsoever. And in fact, I have a fire case here to try and show you my general experience with the firing pin protrusion on primers is this. This is pretty much what I've seen across the board in terms of all the rounds that I have inspected, because if you've watched Mac's video, it's clearly puncturing his firing pins and causing issues where debris can get into the channel. Again, no issues with mine so far. Going on to the bolt carrier, obviously a very dirty bolt carrier. Again, you can just wipe that off. You know, we got some slight finish wear at the single focus, slight finish wear on top. Don't really clean it a whole lot. There's really no wear in the channel. Looking at our tail fill focus, we do have some peening and mushrooming of the metal, completely normal. The trigger does seem very hard, as it's not even really showing any signs of wear, and probably won't give me that nice ride over with the bolt carrier, because even my washer with the Tapco G2 trigger still sticks after like 4,000, 5,000 rounds through it. So again, really just comes down to what your experience is. Recoil spring is doing really well. I remember Robski stating that his seemed to be a little bit on the weaker side. And then also Grand Thumb said that his rifle seemed to have a more of a competitive gas setting to it, whereas he felt that generally others have more of a military gas setting, which personally I don't really know. You can watch my old video of me shooting it, and it seems really strong. In fact, I'm not sure if this casing has it, but on most casings I have seen from mine, it actually will somewhat, I guess, push in the neck a little bit, or it'll nick it so badly that you probably couldn't reload this if this was brass. So it definitely will do some damage to these casings wherever it hits. So it's sending them out there with authority, I would say. With that being said, there's also another issue that a lot of people seem to have with Palmetto State Armories in general, and that is the lever for the gas tube seems to be very loose and very easily manipulated. Personally, as you just saw, that was my first time ever actually trying to do that with my finger. Mine's really tight, in fact. It's not bad. It moves with a little bit more force. As you can see with my thumb right there, it's starting to move. Keep pushing. There we go, it moved. So mine takes a lot to do it, I would say. I'm not worried about that in particular. Some people, theirs are like literally spinning around and stuff. So, and mine right there, you saw, went right into the detent opening for point forward. So that's good. Some people have some really bad issues with those. So again, I'm really happy with this gun so far. You know, you can say it potentially could one day fail. If it does, I'll let you guys know. I will send it to Palmetto State Armory, get it fixed, see what happens. One other thing I can really talk about is my optic experience and the barrel maybe. I did shoot that Ukrainian stuff that I got. I didn't shoot all of it, of course. I only shot a little bit. It does seem to do very well with that Ukrainian 69 grain ammunition that was coming in. That stuff seems like it's kind of gone probably now. I only see the 30 round boxes being sold. But that's good ammo though. I was worried about how well it would eject, because it's probably way more underpowered because it has to send a very heavy bullet compared to the 60 grain stuff. Well, 9 grains, you know, it's not too big of a deal, but you know, in some of the shorter barrel rifles, you could definitely see some issues. I want to go ahead and talk about this optic real quick. This is a 1P63 or PK1. These are generally going to be called PK1s because they're civilian-made versions of them. Mine has about 400 rounds through it, I guess. Maybe 600. I don't know. I've only shot it a little bit indoors. And if you know anything about these optics, they're very interesting. They have a tritium and a window here that allows for light to filter in to power the optic. Very cool optic. Has a slight pink hue to the glass. I can't really show you the reticle because of how it's doing in this light setting, but there's this lever here that's really cool, and it basically dims the glass so that you kind of get this polarization sunglasses filter effect. And basically what it allows you to do is, if you're shooting into a environment that's more brightly lit than where you're at, it allows you to be able to see your reticule much more easily than versus like on a reflex, Trigicon reflex, where it might the reticule might start to get washed out. But the only thing I can say that kind of sucks about this optic is, if you go back and watch my video of me shooting at that range, the indoor range that I shoot at, it kind of has this darker lighting around where the actual shooter is, and then behind you there's some pretty decent okay lighting, and then towards your target there's some okay lighting. It's nothing really great. And what I've noticed is in that environment, I can't see my reticule whatsoever on the target. It's very dim. So I have to turn on this polarization filter. And what that causes is it causes me to then not really be able to see my target all that well, because it's way too dark to really be able to use it effectively. So that's my real experience with the optic so far. It's awesome. You do have to get more of a chin weld, or no weld at all, kind of. You kind of have to get so high up that your chin's almost not even on it. But I like the optic a lot. It's really nice. But really, there isn't much else I can really talk about it. It's built like a tank. Really nice Russian optic. Came in this cool case. Has a Russian manual, a tool to zero it. It is somewhat of a funky system to zero it. It's I'm not sure if it's MOA or what, but it does have clicks, thankfully, and it was pretty easy to zero, but it's a little bit strange of an optic overall. The person I got it from includes this translation of the original manual, but honestly, it's not the best translation. And for example, if you want to use it to zero, it does it transliterates these letters, and it doesn't really tell you what they mean in English. So unless you know what they mean in Russian, it's kind of a useless manual, to be honest. There are videos and ways to look up what it is. I'm not going to go into that right here. This video is already way too long because I like to ramble. But I just want to go ahead and briefly state, again, my only issues with this gun so far have been that the rear sight leaf seems to be somewhat canted in its with its pin. The pin might be pushing it over to the right up in the front, which it might be a little bit to the left in the back. So it's kind of not lining up perfectly, although you can still use the iron sights A-okay, not a single issue whatsoever. With that being said, I will continue to look out for both the right lug and the firing pin. We will see what happens to these components because, again, other people seem to have a lot of issues with them. Some people seem to have no issues with them. And again, it really just comes down to, I guess, when and how well they were making those parts on that particular day. So, you know, what I'll say is this about if you really want to get one of these or not. Really, I guess, test your luck on it. Again, I got really lucky, I think, on this one. If you know, if all of them are lemons, if almost every single one of them is a lemon, so far this one has not been, in my opinion. We'll see though. You know, it could change literally in one round. This thing could break, and I could be coming on here and having to tell you that, oh well, it's not as great as I thought it would be. But even then, I will say that it definitely has proven itself very reliable, very well made. You know, the whole issue of would you take this into combat or a situation, would you depend this on your life? So far, within the last 1,000 rounds, yeah, I would. It hasn't shown itself to be anything subpar. But honestly, you know, if you think about it anyway, if you're in a situation like, you know, like the big igloo or whatever, or any shit hits the fan situation, would you take a AK-74 into the woods with you? You know, like why wouldn't you take like an AR-15 or like an AK in like 5.56? Like why would you take 5.45 and an AK-74? Probably one of the most obscure assault rifle calibers in the entire country. You know, like that is definitely not the gun or ammo to be taking in looking for resupply or spare parts, or you know, it's just not the gun that you would take in this situation. I don't think so. I wouldn't worry about something like that. Again, you know, I have guns that I would only probably ever use on the range, and I have a lot of World War II and even Civil War guns and stuff like that. So again, it's like, who cares if this gun is potentially not going to be the most reliable as all of your other AKs. But so far, again, like I've said, this gun has definitely been very well for me, and I'm very happy with it. So another 30-minute video. Well, I'll just go ahead and say thanks for watching. I'll probably make another update video, maybe 500 rounds later, or another 1,000. I don't know yet. But I will definitely make something if something does end up happening to it. And that'll be within any amount of rounds. I'll probably almost instantaneously make a video because I'll want to get that out before I send the gun off to PSA if something does happen. So I'll see you in the next video. I'm not sure what my next video will be, but there will definitely be some new stuff coming. I really do need to get a way to record these videos without having to just hold it in my hand, my phone. But I wanted to show you this. I am getting something. If you know what this logo is, you kind of already know. It is a Form 4. I will say that. Try to guess what this is, or what this goes to, and what I might be getting. And there will definitely be some content on that in the future. You can probably hear how big I'm smiling. So try your best to really guess as to what this is. So with that being said, if you enjoyed my content, like and subscribe. I was really shocked, honestly, how many views I got on the last one of these, but I really don't expect to get all that many views on this one. So we'll see. If you enjoyed this, again, like, subscribe, watch out for new content, and please leave feedback, comments, questions. I try to reply to every single one of them, so I'll see you in the next video.